welcome to this episode of Let's Talk 716 Sports. My special guest is Scott Reed, and we will be talking Buffalo Bills football.
Hey, I always say, yeah,
Yeah,
Robby, thanks for having me, my friend. You reached out to me a couple days ago on the Twitter, and you said, "Hey, man, you want to be on the show?" I was like, "Heck yeah!" I watched a couple of your shows. You have some pretty nice guests on your shows. I know one of the most recent was Ryan Thomas. He's actually a good buddy of ours. So you're getting around a little bit, and I love to see it. But thanks for having me, for sure.
yeah. Thanks for um joining my show.
It's my pleasure, my friend.
How do you think the Bills will defend the run next season?
Well, I think it's going to start with who they have now. If I am corrected here, I think all the head coaching vacancies are full. So the fact that we have Leslie Frazier coming back, Robbie, I think that's going to be a good thing. He's assistant coach as well, so not much is going to change defensively. Um, there's a couple players I think the Bills should bring back, obviously in free agency. One in particular would be Harrison Phillips or Philip Harris. You know who I'm talking about. I'm like messing up the names here. Harrison Phillips. Uh, he's graded really high against the run this past year, and he is someone that I believe that the Bills should definitely bring back. There's three defensive linemen right now in Justin Zimmer, obviously Vernon Butler, and then Phillips. And if they're going to bring any of those guys back, I think it should be number 99. Like I said, he graded high against the run. He's familiar with that defense, and he's healthy. So I think he's only worth about $6-7 million. If he is, grab him for 2 or 3 more years and go from there. Another guy I think is one of my personal favorites, but he hasn't shown his potential, I don't believe, in Tremaine Edmonds. The guy is 23 years old, and I think people tend to forget that. And I think people are starting to think, well, we keep using his age as an excuse. But he has learned a lot in these 4 years he's been here. Right now, he's serving his fifth-year option, making that $12 million. I think it's well deserved, 2 Pro Bowls, but he does need to work on his pursue and his tackling. And I think for him this year, if he can focus on watching the film on himself, he's a smart guy. I think he can figure out that, hey, I've been over pursuing a lot. I've been missing a lot of tackles. I've been turning my shoulders. I haven't been squaring up. And those are all easy fixes for someone that's probably done it out of his 20 years of life, 16 of those years. So I think if you can bring back a defensive coordinator, you maintain your linebacker and have him learn from last year's mistakes, and then bring back one of the better rush defenders in the defensive line, I think your defense will automatically get better.
Do you think that like Matt Milano would be one of the middle linebackers?
That's been suggested. I've heard people say that, and that's a good point. A lot of people would think maybe Tremaine Edmonds would be better not being the middle linebacker, moving over to the side a little bit where Milano would be. And that potentially could be something they could try. I think Matt Milano would be a good middle linebacker. I really do. The guy is instinctive. He's fast. He fills the holes. We saw him fill the holes against the Patriots when they were running, grounding, and pounding. And Coach Frazier or McDermott, we don't know who it was, finally said, "Go hit the gap." And he had like 2 tackles for losses right in a row. So Matt Milano, I do think he'd be a good inside linebacker. It's hard to tell where these guys are lining up because they do run that 4-2-5 defense 99% of the time. They're not running that 4-3 with Klein out there. It's that 4-2-5 with Taron Johnson up a little bit, or even Poyer up in the box. But Matt Milano, I think he could be an inside middle linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds could probably be a better outside linebacker than an inside linebacker. So that you should call up McDermott and see if he'd ever try that for you.
Do you think that like Trey White after his injury will be okay to be one of the safeties?
I'm hoping so. I've heard news that he's on track, and you never know what on track in the NFL is, whether it's by the midseason, whether it's after 4 games of the season. But I'm hoping like heck that Trey White comes back, because if we don't sign Levi Wallace, then we'll have two of our first cornerbacks, CB number 1 and CB number 2, missing from that lineup the first week. And I think that's very dangerous. I don't think Dane Jackson's a number 1. I believe he's a number 2. Taron Johnson's our slot guy. So I'm not sure what we would do. So Trey White, we need for him to come back. And unfortunately for this injury, a lot of times they usually aren't 100% until the second year. So I don't want him to rush anything because I don't want him to have a career-ending knee injury. But at the same time, we'll find out a lot come free agency and come draft what the Bills really think about Trey White and how he's progressing.
Do you think like the Bills would go after a safety in the draft?
Like a safety or a corner? I think safety wise, behind Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, we have Jaquan Johnson from Miami they got a couple years ago, and Damar Hamlin, who I think is a really good safety. He's out of Pitt. He's one of Dane Jackson's teammates a couple years ago. I think they're all set at safety, and even Cyril Neal just signed that deal, and he's one of those hybrid guys. He could play safety, he could play nickel, he could play corner. But I'm with you. I know what you're asking. I do believe the Bills they're going to address the cornerback position in the draft, and pending Trey White's condition and what they do with Levi Wallace, it very well could be the first round. But I can see them addressing it within the first 4 rounds.
Who do you think the Bills will draft this year?
All right, you sitting down because this one could be a little long-winded. So there's 4 spots. There's 4 positions I think the Bills should address, and it's not to address as starting. It's to address as developing high-quality depth, interior offensive, interior defensive line, cornerback, and running back. And it all depends on what they do in free agency. Ike Bowaker and Ryan Bates right now are our guards that are free agents. We only have 3 on the roster now, in Feliciano, Ford, and Capra. Interior defensive line, Vernon Butler, Phillips, and Zimmer are free agents. I think right now it's Eddie Oliver, Ankau, and Star Lotullier are only defensive linemen. Corners were hurt and injured, and Levi's a free agent. And running back, we only have 2 on the roster. We have Devin Singletary, who's on his last year, and Zach Moss, who has 2 years left. And I think an exclusive rights free agent in Christian Wade, and I don't think he's ever going to see the field. Unfortunately, we love him to death, but when it comes to running backs in the NFL, it's more than just running the ball, it's blocking. And I think that's one of the big reasons why he hasn't been had a helmet on during a regular season game. So as far as draft goes, I would love for them to address the cornerback position. There's a couple guys, Andrew Booth out of Clemson, who I think I don't think he'll make it that far, but I have like 8 guys going in the first round as far as corners go. But if a guy named Andrew Booth, Kyer Elam, Kyler Gordon from Washington, and Trent McDuffie from Washington, if any one of those guys is available at 25, I think Bills would be smart to grab one of those guys for sure. There's a couple of guards out there that they could get. Usually guards don't go the first round. And there is a defensive lineman, I think, that should also be considered, Jordan Davis from Georgia. Those would be those corners, and that one defensive lineman, I believe, are, if available at 25, the Bills should grab.
What is a position of need for the Bills?
That's a good question, because it's a need question, right? It's not what should they address, it's what do they need. And I'm going with depth here. I know I mentioned cornerback and defensive line in the first round. And whatever they don't get in the first, they'll get in the second, third, and fourth. But right now, if they don't address the running back position in free agency, I think that would be a need, but I don't think they have to get it in the first round. There's 2 running backs, Jerome Ford from Cincinnati and James Cook from Georgia, who could potentially land in the 3rd, 4th round for Buffalo. And like I said, it's not the only position they need as far as depth. Well, it is the only position they need as far as depth, would be all those ones I mentioned, but they could wait for that need position for the 3rd or 4th round and for one of those running backs, because we're only currently carrying 2.
do you think the Bills need like a running back?
I don't think they need one in a sense of starting. I think Singletary's the man there. I think he's proven every every yard that he's gotten, he's earned. He's a hard runner. He's always falling forward. We all know, and it's documented, that offseason he had last year to make himself better. And I don't see him doing anything different than that this year. He knows that with the limited carries he gets, he only averages about 160 carries a year. He's not going to get those 200, 250, 300s like those running back ones that get the 1,600 yards rushing are going to get. He's got to continue working hard, just to put up the numbers he can when he does get the numbers, because he's going to get a lot of scrutiny because he's not a 1,000-yard running back. He very well could be, but this guy has shown that he will do whatever it takes to prove all the naysayers wrong, and he'll put in the hard work. He'll definitely put in the hard work, but we only got 2 on the roster. We only have 2, so we're going to have to get another running back somewhere. Tyron Jones isn't returning, and one of my favorite running backs, Antonio Williams, he was on the Bills practice squad. He played against the Miami game a couple years ago and looked good, I thought. And the Giants picked him up. So, yeah, I think running back is not a position where they need a starter, but they do need to fill that depth.
What did you think of like Zach Moss as a running back, like back up to Singletary?
I had high hopes for Moss. And when Moss came out of the draft, he basically gave everybody a warning saying, it's going to be a business decision if you're going to try to tackle me. He hasn't proven that yet. And lack of carries, injury, I think all that stuff played a factor. And he just hasn't been the running back I think a lot of us have hoped he would be, to the point where in that AFC divisional game, Robby, he didn't get any field time. Singletary played 100% of those snaps. So it makes you wonder what Dable and Bean and McDermott, if they have any faith in him. He does show glimpses. He's a hard runner. He just lacks speed. I compared him a lot to Singletary a little bit as far as his speed. He's not going to outrun you, but he does break tackles, and he's a little heavier than he is. But some people were talking Moss potentially could have taken Singletary's spot last year, but he just has not done enough. He hasn't done enough for me. And like I said earlier in the show, he's got 2 years left, and I don't know if he's going to get the touches to prove that he's worth being on a roster.
Do you think that like they would try to trade him eventually, or?
That's the thing. I don't know what they would trade him for. They got him in the 3rd round. I don't think you can get a 3rd round for him. It's one of those things that off-season, training camp, preseason, if injuries start popping up with running backs, he may be trade worthy where someone's desperate to get a running back with some running back experience. It's hard to judge a rookie running back. I know college football nowadays, they do have a lot more complex offenses. They do have a lot of running backs blocking more as far as pass protection, and that's a huge thing in the NFL. And Zach Moss grades very well as pass protection in the NFL. So that alone may earn him some recognition if there are teams that are looking to trade for a running back. But right now, I don't think you can get a 4th or 5th for him, unfortunately.
What do you think of Cody Ford?
I think that's part of the reason why the Bills are going to draft a couple guards this year in the NFL draft. Injury, moving him originally in a spot I don't think he was very familiar with. The Bills drafted him as guard. They had him at right tackle. They bounced him around. He just hasn't done enough to prove himself. And every time he comes in, he seems to be giving up a lot of pressures. I was a fan of Cody Ford. I rooted for him when we were drafting him. And when I found out that we did get him, I was pretty excited, but he just hasn't had the opportunity and hasn't grown enough in these past 3 years to I think fill that roster spot. So I think, like I said, that'll be a wrong that the Bills will try to right this year in the draft. Cody Ford. There's a couple teams, a few of them are in our own AFC East here that have a whole bunch of cap space, And if some of these teams are looking for guards and all that stuff, they may be willing to spend the money to go grab them just because they have so much room and potentially try to see if he doesn't fit the system. I can see Cody Ford starting somewhere, but I think Bills fans are tired of him. And I think I just don't think he fits the bill here in Buffalo. You like that?
What did you think of Josh Allen's season?
He's like the 32nd ranked quarterback. He's not all that. Just kidding. Josh Allen's season, he never seems to amaze me. He does improve every year. Not, and when I say improve, I'm not meaning statistics. He definitely was a field general this year. And he's improving every year. He does all the right things. And being a quarterback that was knocked for accuracy and some of the other issues he had coming out of college, those were just minor fixes that Ken Dorsey and Jordan Palmer were able to find out. Just the technique in him throwing the ball, dropping his shoulder, keeping it pivoting at his waist. Those little things help quarterbacks out, and him working and those two finding out that was his weak, what he was doing wrong, made Josh into one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And with his work ethic and a couple of the phrases that he said during the interviews about how hard he's going to work to bring a Super Bowl to Buffalo, I believe every word he's saying. And so I don't see him doing, I don't see him taking a day off until he figures out how to win a championship here in Buffalo.
Who do you think would be his backup quarterback?
I think Trubisky's going. So I don't know. Ryan Fitzpatrick, come on, bring him back, right?
Yeah,
the guy's mobile. He's still pretty accurate. He's getting old, but he loves it here in Buffalo. Bring him back. I'm sure he'll take a heck of a friendly contract to come to Buffalo and finish his career here.
If the Bills do bring him back, do you think that he would get like a standing ovation when they announce his name during the preseason?
Oh yeah, I think you hate to sound like a homer, but I do think Ryan Fitzpatrick still has backup ability. Some would even say he could still start in some other NFL teams, but I'm not saying bring him back just because I'm a huge Bills fan and I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he can still handle backup duties, and I think all Bills fans love him. They love what he's about. He's all about the hardworking class of Buffalo. He's all about going in the stands and participating with the fans with his shirt off, screaming at the top of his lungs. The guy loves Buffalo. And of course, I do believe the fans would go crazy if he was on our roster. You may even hear some play Ryan Fitz chants late in the third quarter, early fourth in some games.
And yeah, when Fitzpatrick was in Buffalo, I actually got his jersey when he was playing here.
Yeah, I have a nice Fitzy jersey too. It's a white one. You got a home or away one?
I got the blue one.
There you go. Yeah, I got mine hanging right over there. I usually wear what the Bills wear during the season. So if they're wearing their away jerseys, I usually throw on the white jersey and then vice versa.
Yeah, like when the Bills are away, sometimes I wear my home jersey for them.
Well, they do wear their home jerseys every once in a while. When they go to Miami, I believe they wear them.
Yeah, so I think I think the Bills and the hockey team, the Sabres, I think they should wear white at home and their colors on the road.
I like that idea because I'm a big fan of the all white real quick trivia. The Cowboys started wearing all white at home, and the reason they did that back in the day when they started is because they wanted the fans to see something different as far as colors go. Because if they would wear their blue and the other teams wore white, there was no difference. So they wore white on purpose so the fans would be able to see all the different colors of the NFL come into their stadium.
Yeah, because then like the you would see like the blues, the turquoise colors ones, or like the greens that like the Jets in Philadelphia have.
I agree. I think that would be a cool idea if the Bills white jerseys are sharp, like I just said, right? I'm a fan of the white jerseys. Uh, and it'd be hard for the other team to play against us if we had a big snowstorm. Do you remember that Indianapolis Colts game with the snow?
I was at that game.
Were you really? There you go.
Yeah, my
Was
dad
it
and
hard
I
to see the
were.
Colts?
Yeah,
I think the
and
Bills need that advantage when it comes to a home game, don't you?
in the Bills wore their red jerseys,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Peterman was our quarterback too at the time.
I believe you're right.
I think it was Peterman and Tyrod.
Yes. Because I remember, I think was it Peterman that threw the touchdown in the corner of the end zone to Kelvin Benjamin, and that's when the one good catch he had all for Buffalo for his whole career in Buffalo.
I think so. And
That
then
was a fun game to watch.
yeah, then that game went to overtime too, I think.
And then McCoy took it in for that long touchdown run.
Yeah,
Was it cold that day? Do you remember, or was it just really snowy?
it was really snowy and it was cold, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked cold and snowy, but we won that game.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
I have two really fun questions for you. And the reason I say they're fun is because it's a question I ask all Bills fans. I know as a couple of guys like us, we like to create some weird scenarios as far as who the Bills could get in free agency and who they could get in a draft, and we can get ourselves excited about the potential. But we just sit there and watch the game, so we really don't know what we're talking about, but we kind of do. My question for you, Robby, is in free agency, if money is not an issue, money is not an issue in free agency. Say the Bills, they got $50 million, just like the Jets and the Miami Dolphins do. Who's the one player in free agency you think the Bills that would help the Bills out the most?
I think it would be maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick, because maybe he could mentor Josh Allen a little bit.
I mean, as a young guy like Josh Allen and the experience that Ryan Fitzpatrick has, you could always learn something, right? Any little thing you can get from an experienced quarterback, you take and you can turn it into whatever you need to turn it into. But that's a good answer, and we need that backup quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. And then the second part of that question, you ready for it? Say the Bills this year had the first pick of the 2022 draft. Obviously, we're not going after quarterback and wide receiver. I think we're okay at. What player or position do you think the Bills should get with that very first pick?
I think they would go like with a corner, or maybe like an offensive front guy.
Okay. I like that answer. There are the names I mentioned earlier, the corners I think the Bills should get in the first round. They were all those corners that will fall probably mid-round, the 25th round, but there's still two or three corners that could go in those first 7, 8, 9 picks. So I would be a fan definitely of the top corners out there. That definitely help us out, and then we probably wouldn't have to worry so much about Levi Wallace, right?
Yeah.
You want to know who I'd go after? There's a couple defensive ends I think that the Bills would probably go after with that first pick. Uh, I think the Bills need someone that can get like 12 sacks a year on their roster. We have, Addison, Rousseau, Basham, and Epinesa coming back. And Robby, they did really good this year as far as pass pressure, rushing the quarterback, but they never got home. They never got the sacks. So I think they should use that first round pick, that first pick in the 2022 draft on a defensive end that can get them 12 plus sacks a year. That's where I'm going.
Um, where could my viewers um like find your content at?
All right. Well, you can find me personally on Twitter at Scott247BF. I do run a fan page called 24/7 Buf Fandemonium. We are on Twitter, we are on Instagram and Facebook, and we also do a live show. It's called the K Gun Report. We go live every Tuesday on Facebook and YouTube Live at 8 p.m. We actually start back up March 15th, the day before the free agency frenzy starts. So that should be a fun little show. And then come preseason, we actually start Sunday sessions at 11:30 on Sunday. It's our pregame show. We have a lot of fun. We kick our feet up. We have a couple drinks and we talk Buffalo Bills football. So you can find me again at 24 at Scott 24/7 BF, and then 24/7 Buf Fandemonium is our pages.
And when is your next live show?
The K Gun Report is going live March 15th, Tuesday, March 15th at 8 p.m. And Robby, one cool thing that we always do, not always, but on many of our shows, we're partnered up with Buffalo Autographs and buffaloautographs.com. They give away, they have merchandise that you can buy, and they also do razzes, but they're providing us with a jersey that we're actually going to give away for free. All you have to do is come on the show and comment. So yeah, that March 15th, Tuesday, 8 p.m., the K Gun Report will go live on Facebook Live and the YouTube Live.
Do you do anything like special for your brand that you run?
As far as we love the reason we go live is because we absolutely love the conversation that we have with the people that come on Facebook and YouTube. They leave comments. We actually get them involved in the conversation. We answer their questions. We call them out by name because we know all fans. You go on a lot of these podcasts and live streams and all that stuff. You got a lot of people typing away, and some of them they never get heard. They don't have a platform like we do, Robby, where they can ask questions and have somebody actually post their question on the site and then answer it. And there's a lot of people that have a lot to say, and we love the fact that we can get them involved and have them heard and develop Mafia's family. And the more the merrier. And we love getting everybody involved on the page.
What days do you mostly do your live shows?
We do the K Gun Report goes live every Tuesday. We always do the same day, Tuesday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And then the Sunday sessions, like I mentioned previously, that's our pregame show. We always go Sunday at 11:30. Of course, unless the Bills have like a Saturday game or Thursday game, we might do something a little different.
Do you think the Bills will get the Thursday night game against the Rams?
I think that'd be a brilliant idea. I think bringing the Super Bowl champion, who we obviously know is going to have that Thursday night game, and then bringing who many think should have been their contender in the Super Bowl. I think that would be an amazing matchup. It's not divisional, so it's NFC versus AFC. So it's not like there's any playoff indications that would be involved. So starting the season off like that, Josh Allen's offense versus Aaron Donald's defense, I think that'd be a heck of a matchup to watch on opening day.
Yeah, I've heard rumors about that one.
They got some people talking, and I'm a big fan of Robert Wood, wide receiver that was injured for the Rams this year, but he was an ex-Buffalo Bill. So it'd be pretty cool to see him play against his old teammates. I think there's very few teammates left on that roster, but it'd be cool to see Robert Wood.
thank you for tuning into Let's Talk Someone Six Sports. Thank you to my special guest, Scott Reed, and Go Bills.
Hey, Robbie, I want to say thank you for sure for having me on the show. Anytime you can get podcasts together, live streams together, it's good for Buffalo. It's good for Mafia. We all have our own opinions, and to have a cool conversation and just chill out and hang out with Buffalo Bills Mafia friends is always fun. So, thank you for having me on. Thanks for asking me to come on. It's been cool.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on the show. It was a fun conversation.
Sure.